If you want to address your question to a specific speaker, can you say who that is? Gentleman here.
I don't have a question. I just want to emphasize that Failits are Kurds and they're natives of Mesopotamia, which is currently Iraq.
Right.
They have been there for thousands of years, since the old times of Persian and Kurdish empires. So they're natives, not immigrants.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. That's very helpful. Gentleman here, please.
I've got a question for Mr. Richard Beestone. You mentioned that you went to Iran. I have got some friends from Sardash, that's eastern of Iran. And I believe they've been attacked by chemical weapons during the Iran-Iraq war. Can you clarify that, or do you have any information about that?
I don't, I'm afraid. I mean, it was, I think, well known that both sides used chemical weapons, particularly down on the southern front and the Foyle Peninsula and in the marshes. But to my knowledge, only the Iraqis used it against civilian populations in the manner that we were discussing today about Halabja. I'm not trying to justify what the Iranians did, but I'm not aware of the use of chemical weapons by Iranians in the manner in which you talk about, I'm afraid.
No, I didn't mean Iranian.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Iraqi planes attacked Sardash. Sardash is another Kurdish city.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Which is 30, 40 miles from international, still Kurdistan.
Sure,
two different countries.
Oh, I'm sure that's...
But Iraq attacked by Iraqi airplanes.
I'm sure it's plausible. I don't know. I might have known at the time, but I'm afraid that I don't have any information on that. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Gentleman at the back there. I think we're just bringing a microphone to you.
Thank you so much. My question is for Mr. Richard. I'm from the eastern Kurdistan, Iranian Kurdistan. And as you know, Saddam Hussein took chemical weapons and didn't use against the American and Israel and any other country, but used against the Kurdish people and against his people. We are faced in Iran, we are faced in more dangerous weapons, atomic weapons. What have to do international community for prevent the Iranian regime to take the atomic weapon? Because I'm sure they do not use against Israel and America. They use against their people because they want to show to other people we have this very powerful weapon. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Richard?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, this is the other big looming problem, which is not really getting the attention that it should. Unfortunately, I think the Iranians learnt a lesson in the Iran-Iraq war that if you arm yourself with these weapons, you'll be taken very seriously by your neighbors. And obviously, if you have atomic weapons, you'll be taken very seriously by the entire global community. And I know that there are attempts now, particularly in the second term of the Obama administration, to try and get talks going. But unless there's real resolve from the international community, and at the moment that's being expressed through economic sanctions, which seem to be having some effect, the betting is that the Iranians have the know-how and the will to build these weapons, and it will change the whole balance of power in the region forever. And the expectation is, of course, that it would cause a nuclear arms race, and we'd see Saudi Arabia and possibly Egypt and others also clamoring to get it. So it's a very, very dangerous situation. But I think that the events in Kurdistan, I'm sure, influence the decision to go for this thing, because once you have those sort of weapons, then of course you're in a much stronger position internationally.
I think that's a very correct analysis, actually, Richard. Certainly one which is shared by many of my parliamentary colleagues. Any further questions? Okay, a gentleman there.
My name is Koya Rauf. I'm one of the survivors of Halabja. My question is for Richard. There are two murders of Halabja and Anfal in UK. Do you know who are them? And one of them is the military pilot who participated in Halabja gas, and the other one is the military pilot was the Tariq Ramadan. The other one was the Wafik Samurai, who participated or who were responsible for the Anfal campaign. And he was the assistant of the head of intelligence when Saddam Hussein was on power. Have you mentioned anything about it in media or not? The other question was there are some companies who supplied chemical weapons and equipment to Saddam Hussein from the United Kingdom and from somewhere else like Germany and American. One of the company named Karl Korb, who was in Germany, and he supplied lots of chemical weapons and supply and equipment to Saddam Hussein during Iraq-Iran war. After Saddam Hussein regime gone, the Karl Korb changed the name and he came back to Iraq under the new name to rebuild Iraq. Do you know that? Or if you want to know that, you can research and you publish something about that, especially for the two murders. You have to do something about the murders because it's dangerous to United Kingdom. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can we just take, if there's any more questions, can we take them in one go? Yes, there's a gentleman here and a lady there, if you would. I'm so sorry, we can't hear you. If you just use the microphone.
I personally think it's not an answer to get rid of the pilots or people that have done this. I personally think it's a constitution or some sort of a legacy that needs to be known. Not a political power, a private, maybe something that's sorted out by all the governments internationally that can force political powers not to trade arms for oil, not to trade arms for freedom, not to give people, if two countries are having a fight, not to build one of them up against the other one, because that's a prime example of what happened in Iran. That chemical weapon was for Iran, but he blew it up. And earlier I asked a question, but there's no one to answer me. Was that chemical weapon that was bought, was it made for Iran during the war? That's why the West never said nothing about it. Did they think that he was going to attack Iran with it? But then he attacked the Kurds with it instead. But if he did attack Iran, would we still be having this conference? Because we should. It's about humans. It's not about Iranians, or it's not about this or that. It's about whoever's given these people the power to have these weapons.
Thank you.
Over 20 years' time, not just 1 or 2 years. He's had it for many years. He's threatened Russia, he's threatened Iran, he's threatened Israel, he's threatened the whole world with it. But instead of all of that, he only could get to the poor Kurds, because the Kurds, they had nobody to stick up for them, you know?
Yeah. Thank you very much indeed for that. And the lady at the back.
I'm Judith Kirby, friend of the Kurds, and in Kurds in particular in Portsmouth in Hampshire. My question is, or statement really, is that many of the speakers today have spoken about the urgent need for recognition for what happened in Halabja and the Anfal campaign as an act of genocide. And this morning, one of the speakers, Mr. Nardin Sahari, has got an online e-petition requiring 100 signatures. To date, we've only got 26,000. And my question is, what can we do to get more signatures, to put more pressure on the British government to discuss this issue and recognise it as an act of genocide, considering that a couple of days a report was published saying that it remains this government's view that it is not for governments to decide whether a genocide has been committed in this case, as this is a complex legal question. We've already seen the example of Norway and Sweden. For goodness sake, can we not do something positive in this country?
Thank you very much for that. And if I may abuse my position from the chair to say that we are doing all we can in Parliament across all the political parties to push our government into recognizing this as a genocide against the Kurdish people. I don't know if any of the speakers want to make a very, very final comment on any of the questions. We are running very short of time. Well, just to comment on or respond to any of the questions. Very briefly, please.
Yeah. Actually, I think everybody feel the responsibility of how to encourage his friend, his family, his neighbors to sign this. Just for humanity, everybody should do it. It's our responsibility. It's the media responsibility. If anyone talking about the human rights and the
sign the petition.
Freedom to sign the petition.
Thank you, Tana. Thank you, Tana. I'm so sorry that we're running out of time. Cameron, 30 seconds.
I think, as she said, you have to all of together to cooperate to succeed the petitions and contact other organizations in all locals, introduce the people how the Halabja, how the Anfal, what's going on in Halabja, what's going on in Anfal, what's going on in the Kurdistan in the past. Believe him that these cases are genocides. Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. And final word with Richard Beeston.
Well, I quite agree. And actually, I think there is quite a recent phenomenon of attention to human rights, interest in the Holocaust, interest in what happened in Rwanda, what happened in Cambodia, and the Kurds have a very good case to make. Partly you're victims of your own success in pulling yourself out from the terrible massacre that you suffered and building a modern, democratic, autonomous state, I'll call it. But I think you have a very good case to make, and I think that actually people will listen, but we need more events like this, and I think we also need to get allies among Holocaust museums, among human rights groups, to broaden it out and to raise awareness that way.
Thank you very much, Richard. And I think perhaps we've got Holocaust Remembrance Day coming up very soon. And we must remember the Holocaust is not just about the Jewish people. The Kurdish people are there too.